Still says preparing. Does it say live on your end? There we go. Live on Facebook. Here we are. Welcome back, everybody. Digital Marketing Wednesday. I missed you guys. It's been a couple of editions since I've been here with my buddy Ben. Shout out to Debbie for co-hosting the past two editions. So before we dive into today, Ben, pop quiz. How was it co-hosting with Debbie?
Debbie's the real star of all this. She's the one eventually. I'm just going to let her have my seat, and it's going to be the Bill and Debbie show, and you guys talk all things digital marketing, and I'll just stand in the corner and text you guys things every once in a while. No, she absolutely crushed it, and I think she brings that unique perspective of someone who, very successful in the real estate business as an agent, doesn't love technology, and she's leaning into that a lot. So she brings a lot of that fresh perspective to it. So it was fun.
Right. Good stuff. Now, there's a couple of great sessions. If you guys are watching this and you missed those, go back and check out the last two editions. Lots of great info there. So for today's session, I'll give you just a little appetizer, folks, and I'm going to turn it over to Ben. We got a little mad. Ben and I got a little mad about this topic, and I just want to brace you for it for just a second. And I hope you know what I'm about to say comes from a place of love. And even if we don't know each other all that well, it does. It is not hard to sell a listing in today's market. It's not hard. It's not hard to sell it in an hour, in a day, in a week. It's awesome, and there's a huge opportunity that we think a lot of people are missing, and that is the opportunity to take that one listing that you fought so dang hard to get, or those 5 or 10 or however many of those listings that you fought hard to get, and turning that into multiple listings, turning that into multiple buyers. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So Ben, are you as worked up about this as I am, or am I just in a rare kind of mood today?
Oh, Bill, you're always in a rare kind of mood. It's because you're back on the show is why you're in a rare kind of mood, my friend.
Right.
Seriously, it's one of the biggest things we talk about on our coaching calls right now. We hear it a lot, and we're in the market. I'm in the market with a team. It is not hard to sell a listing. And when I hear agents get all excited about it, we are excited that you're selling listings, right? We're excited that your business is moving. We're excited when you take a new listing. All that's great stuff. It's just you're missing the opportunity if you just look at that listing as existing in a vacuum, that it's just one thing. And I always go back that people or agents tend to think that their main job is to sell a house. And it is. That's one of our main jobs is to be, for our fiduciary is the seller, help them get their home sold. Sure. It's also your product, right? It's your main product that you have. And right now you're in a market where there's not a lot of product out there. There's just not. And the new construction is not catching up with it. They're doing the best they can, but I can tell you with my hands as deep in it as we are right now, that's coming. It's slow. It's slow. It's not going to catch up with the demand that's there. So I look at this moment, and it's one of the great misses that if you take a listing and you're not at a 1-to-1 listing ratio, yes, a 1-to-1 or even a 2-to-1 listing ratio in a certain area, you're missing opportunities all over the place right now. And it's just one of those things where there's very strategic and tactical things you can do in your business from a marketing perspective. And we'll talk about this today. To me, it's multifaceted. So many people get caught up in, I need to do this one thing. And it's great to execute on that one thing. Look at the layering of it, though. If you have one listing, ask yourself the question, how can I turn this into another listing? How can I grow my database, potentially add some more buyers in there? So yes, Bill, I would say worked up is a good adjective for the day. So where do you want to jump in on it?
Well, I think let's just start with what you're seeing as some of the best practices in turning into multiple listings, or perhaps that you're seeing people miss. And I know a lot of people are excited about this. It's come up on a lot of calls recently. So let's just launch on a few things they could go do or how they could do it. Yeah.
So I want you to imagine that your listing going on the market is a lot like a movie premiere. So whenever a new movie comes out, do they just kind of like suddenly show up and say, hey, here's the movie, go out and watch it. We hope you like it. It's a good movie. And then they're like, it's going to be a box office hit. Or do they go out and they promote the movie for months? They do interviews with the main cast or the main stars of the movie. And then when the movie comes out, they're still promoting it with marketing. And then even after it's been out, they're still doing other things with post-release information, blooper reels, whatever it may be. It's this whole event built around the movie. that's how you have to picture your listings, is that there's not just the activity of it going active on the market, there's all this stuff you can do around it. And I always think of things in sequence. So Bill knows, he's been around me for a good bit. I'm always thinking in sequential order of how things occur. And in real estate, there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm for the very beginning of a transaction all the way to the end, from the time that you have a prospect to the time they go to closing and beyond that. And that's the timeline sequence you have to think through. So for me, it's before, during, after, right? If we're just going to frame it out, it's before, during, and after. And in some markets, that before can be a coming soon. Sometimes it's you can do other things before something before a home goes on the market. If your market doesn't allow coming soon, some states it's really restrictive. It's like within 24 hours of a listing going coming soon, you have to put it live. There's all these different things around that. So coming soon, though, is one of the best ways to promote a listing if you have that opportunity. Even if it's just 24 hours, I would still encourage you to kind of take the traditional, the digital, and then the social methodology, right? We got to go out and do the traditional methods of producing business. So that's prospecting, calls to the neighbors, door knocking. Even with COVID going on right now, there are ways to safely door knock where you're not all up in people's faces. You can do mailers for, a coming soon listing, letting people know that you're bringing product to the area. Then you go to the digital side. You can target it with build out a specific home website for that particular home. Send that out to everybody. Send it out to your database, right? And then socially, you can target based on a list to that neighborhood. There are ways to pull data lists now that you can target specifically just to a neighborhood, just run ads to it, talk about the new listing that you took. And that's just the coming soon, right? So that's before. And then there's the active. So that's the next phase. So phase one, coming soon. Phase two is active. This is where you're doing all those additional activities. Now you do the same thing. Guess what? You're gonna door knock. You're gonna go out. You're gonna do an open house. You're gonna blow the open house out of the water and not just do one of these really, really lazy open houses that I see a lot of agents doing right now. Go blow it out of the water. Go to the next level with your open houses. And then you could do another mailer if you want to. You could do flyers. Again, targeting and on social. At this point, this is your best opportunity when a home is active on the market. It's one of the best opportunities to produce new leads through the social media channels. We see the bulk of our leads coming at this point, and that's the best way to produce. I mean, setting it to your database is really smart. Bill, I don't know what you're seeing on your end. I think agents miss this because they think of their database as just their Mets. Any leads that you gather or accrue, you can send these kind of things out to that database. This seems to have kind of gone away where agents aren't sending things out to their database whenever they take a new listing, whenever they take it goes under contract or when it's coming soon on the market. They stop talking to their database at this point. I urge people, even when we have a new house come on the market, we shoot a quick little video in front of it, 15 to 20-second video. We'll send that to our whole haven't met database. All the people that are in there that have been a lead from whenever they started, 6-10 years ago, who knows when they got in there. From then to now, we'll send a video out saying, hey, this home's now on the market. You have that many people, there's chances you're going to get responses. We get responses out of that. So you have active, right? And then from active, we go to the pending to close category. It's not closed yet, but it's pending. And this is also where I see agents not picking a phone up and not going out after this. This pending side of things, one of my favorite times to pick a phone up and circle prospect. We've done this for several of our listings, and this is where it's the sweet spot of getting the listing, because now you can tell them, of course, certain states there's regulations. You can't tell them exactly what it's sold for, any concessions, anything along those lines. However, one of my favorite things I talk about is success statistics. So I know, since I'm the listing agent on that house, I know that there were 17 offers on a home. I know that I had 57 showings on a home. So I know by reasons of math that only one person was able to buy that home. So therefore, that neighborhood, there are at least 56 buyers, and there are at least 16 qualified buyers that are probably looking in that area. Wouldn't that be a great thing to share with the neighbors? Hey, I know that there are 16 people right now looking to buy in this neighborhood in your price range. Have you thought about selling? It's as simple as that. And they're nosy anyway. They want to know what the house sold for. They want to know what their neighbors are doing. So they're open to those conversations because people are nosy. They want to know. Right. So I think that pending to close period is a fantastic time to pick the phone up, talk to the neighbors, have conversations around what's going on in the market. Also, this is where social for us does pretty well when we gear it to a seller listing ad and not a home for sale ad. So this is where we're talking about the success of getting something pending. And then from there, after that phase, we go to the close phase. And again, this is again talking about the success statistics. So now we can disclose if we got over asking price, which most of the time we're seeing over asking price. We're seeing conditions for sellers that we've never seen before, where people are very amenable. They're not asking for repairs, or they're putting up higher amounts of non-refundable deposit or fees. There's a lot of bonuses right now to be a seller in this market. So broadcasting that out there. And again, for us, this is the third or fourth call. If you can't do coming soon, this is at least our fourth call to that neighborhood. So we're out digging up more potential listings along those categories. So I always think of before, during, and after. And I think that during period, when it's active, that's when most of the agents do most of their work, or they go out and do their most prospecting or lead gen activities. There's all of this other stuff that you can do along the spectrum of it. And if you're hitting every one of those pieces, you're going to get that 1-to-1, if not 2-to-1 ratio on new listings.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you make a ton of great points in there. And what you're doing is you're breaking it down into digestible bites and sort of the before, during, and after. And then the traditional and the digital. And I know one of the things that we hear a lot is people are saying, well, yeah, I know that I should do a lot of that stuff, except everything's just moving so fast. The game's moving so fast. And so one of the things you guys might do, if you haven't done this before, is talk with your sellers about listing on a particular day and then waiting to review offers maybe on Sunday afternoon or something like that. So I'll kind of give the 10,000 foot view, and then Ben, you fill in on the things that you would add to this. You know, typically, let's go back like a year ago. We might say go live on a Wednesday. So do your coming soon, Monday, Tuesday, go live on a Wednesday or Thursday, do an open house on Saturday or Sunday, have the seller review all offers on Sunday or request all offers by 5 p.m. And then you're in multiples and highest and best. And by Monday, you're under contract. So you've got a 7-day cycle on that allows you to do all the things that Ben's talking about. What we've seen, I'm sure you've seen it in your market, those of you who are watching this, everything's moving so fast right now that if you listed something on Wednesday, you'd have cars lined up down the street by Wednesday afternoon or by Thursday morning. And them waiting until Sunday afternoon is just not going to work. You're going to have people throwing eggs at your house before you know it. So what you may consider doing, though, is don't list it and then put it under contract 6 hours later, because it becomes really difficult to do all the things that Ben's describing. Instead, perhaps what you do is you go live on a Friday, maybe even a Friday afternoon. And then all your showings roll through on Sunday, or Saturday, you do your open house on Sunday, and you've got that 2-3 day window there where you can still execute on a number of the things that Ben's talking about. So Ben, your thoughts on maybe other ways they might be able to slow the game down a little bit?
That's a really smart way to do it. You know, that offer deadline, I wish more agents did this for a multitude of reasons. One, on the listing side, it gives you the opportunity, like Bill's talking about, you're building a runway. And I've seen so many agents cancel open houses, and it's an opportunity for you to market your product, right? And your willingness to work for your sellers, your team's willingness to work for your sellers. So you take away that opportunity for you to do the proper marketing steps. In some cases, if you take an offer within 6 hours of it being on the market, you're hurting the sellers. We've had this happen several times where our best offers came in. So for us, our formula we follow, typically we put temporary no showings on a Thursday afternoon. We go live on Saturday. We coincide that with an open house for us so that we know the first wave of people in is typically people with agents. And then after that, we extend our open house later that day. We might even do an additional open house on Sunday if it's a really good area location in our farming area that we want to take down. And then we have that offer deadline Sunday night. And what we tend to find is that the best offers come in after Sunday, like they come in on Sunday instead of that first initial wave. We're seeing offers right now come in sight unseen all the time. And it's not in the best interest of the sellers. Oftentimes when we wait, and because the sellers get that, you know, that scarcity mentality of, oh, this might be the best offer we see. And we have to counsel them, say, well, let's wait till Sunday and see what we get. I would say the majority of the time, there's not a better offer. There is a better offer that comes in. Those initial offers aren't always the best ones. So by just pulling the trigger on the first one you see, it's not the best strategy for your sellers in the long run, just because the demand is so high. Now, again, this is dependent on price point, location, inventory levels. I always have to put that in there. It depends. Certain markets, certain homes, certain price points aren't moving as well. So then it would be smart that if you got an offer in, you go entertain that offer. However, if you're in that price point in your market where you know it's moving really fast and it's hot and heavy and things are just there's going to be a line of buyers out the door. Slowing the game down a little bit, like Bill's talking about, where you have structured timelines in there, instruct the other agents that these are the timelines. So like Bill said, no one's throwing eggs at your house and they're not upset with you. It's a smart move on both sides. And the other side is professional courtesy to me at this point, where everybody's experiencing it. If you're an individual agent or you have a team and you have buyer agents, whatever model you're running, you've experienced it where you're out with buyers, you've shown them X number of houses and you've lost 6 offers. You've lost 12 offers, right? It's exhausting. And half the time now it's like your buyers are calling you saying, hey, this house came up on the market, and you don't even get a chance to show it to them or even put an offer on the table because it already sells. So for us in our world right now, we're slowing it down. For us on the listing side to produce our marketing materials, really market our product, try to produce other listings. It's also courtesy to the other agents at this point, because we actually, like, my people are getting beat too. We feel it. Like, I feel it in our market. So slowing it down gives everybody the opportunity to at least bring an offer to the table, and extend that courtesy across the board to buyers and other agents across that front as well. So no, there's a lot of advantages to slowing it down a little bit.
Well, I think you make a great point on the agent courtesy thing as well. And that's something that I'd not really thought about from that angle. Makes perfect sense. So, and pretty much everybody watching this has experienced this, is you've got a busy day, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you get blown up by this buyer who says, I got to go see this house tonight. And all of a sudden you're changing dinner plans with your family or your friends or something like that to go scramble, all because of sort of this feeding frenzy that's going on in the market. So look for ways to slow the game down. Look for ways to get out ahead of it a little bit. So here's another thing. I know, Ben, you and I talk about this a lot, and we do internally, is we got a lot of clients who we coach that have found that really tracking their listing pipeline well in advance of when it's going to come up, and over communicating about that within the team, over communicating that to the extent that they can with their database, so that you have the ability to play that matchmaker game that we talk about often, have the ability to play that internally. So no longer is it everything so fast we have to just grab it while we can. Look for ways to strategically slow it down, because it's in the best interest of your client to do that. This might be a good little segue, Ben. One of the things you mentioned we wanted to chat about today is making sure that your messaging matches the market. So let's maybe start with this same thread we're in right now. What are some of the messages that you're using, either in traditional or digital marketing, that you're finding really matches what's going on in the market?
It's a good question. You have to really think about, when you're marketing things to these areas or demographics, specifically thinking of listings, are we asking them the questions that they care about? What problems are they facing that they're aware of, and how are we helping solve them? So that's how we approach all of our marketing right now. We're trying to make sure that we're following where they're stuck at. And the number one way that they're stuck right now is most sellers are like, well, if I sell my home, I have nowhere to go because there's no houses to buy. So one thing we started to do, and I've told several of my people, my coaching calls, this, that's worked really well for us. We've had several sellers. I'm betting everyone on this webinar, if you're watching the recording, they've experienced this conversation with the seller of, I'm just going to wait and see what the market does next year. Mm-hmm. And really what they're saying is, I need to wait because I'm not sure I can buy another house because there's no inventory in what I'm looking for. So what we started doing with our sellers to get them on board with getting their houses marketed, getting us listings in our pipeline, was helping them solve that problem by, expanding the opportunity in terms of thinking through how can we be creative with selling your home. See, we find that buyers right now are very open to conditions on the sales, and that they're willing to have extended closings. They're willing to let us put a house on the market, write an offer up, get it under contract, extend timelines out for the sellers to go find another home, with the knowledge that if we find something they can close sooner, then they'll be more willing, they can close sooner, everybody can move, everybody's happy. But our sellers are now saying, hey, that's a great idea. I'm willing to put my home on the market. We're doing it with 3 of them this weekend, where they were firmly not going to list until next March. And we had this conversation with them, solving the problem of helping them find their next home. And what we find is that buyers are very amenable to this. So when you're marketing to these groups, think about the problem that they're having. How do we solve that problem and move them forward? So for us, it's maximizing their dollars, helping them solve the inventory issue, buying them time. So timelines are a big conversation right now. And several of them, if they don't want to move till March anyway, if we say, well, we'll put it out there on the market, see what happens. Maybe nobody wants to give you, 60 days to close or 90 days to close, whatever number they want to close. I said, but maybe someone will. And in this market, because we're at like 1.2 months of inventory, pretty much everybody's willing to give them whatever they want. So for the sellers, leverage out that the lack of inventory to their benefit, while on your end, you're able to take that listing and potentially market it for more listings, but also you're picking up a buy side on it as well to go into the next area. So just thinking through how you're solving their problems. Oftentimes I just see the same repetitive message of just listed, just sold, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, all that kind of stuff. And there's more there in the messaging piece we talk about in a minute, but that's the main thing with your listings. Try to solve the problems that they're seeing right now. And then that's your messaging you need to take on.
Well, you make a zillion great points in there. And one that I want to ping on too is that I believe we're in a market right now where the person first has to outthink the competition and then has to outdo the competition. I think, everybody who's watching this is a doer. I get that. And we're all awesome for that. And there's that next gear is just strategically thinking about the opportunities. So let's take, and many of you know, I live down here at the beach, and we've got a lot of people who move from out of state. And the out-of-state buyer who has the opportunity to let the seller lease back for an indefinite amount of time has a huge competitive advantage against somebody else because it gives that seller time to go find something else. So one of the things you might consider doing as you're talking to your buyers, to Ben's point, is how flexible are they on dates? How flexible are they on closing dates or lease backs or things like that? Because that may be the difference in your buyer winning in a multiple offer situation versus not, is that flexibility on the terms or the duration. What else are you seeing, or what else do you want to touch on, Ben, in messaging that might be helpful for the folks?
Well, I think it's a good time right now to think about your messaging overall. Where are people moving? Why are they moving? We're seeing this move out of the cities into what they're calling suburban areas. I can't remember how they said it. Anyway, not suburban, it's suburban is what it's called. And there's this big trend where it's basically micro cities, but they're not urban cities anymore. So they want the retail space, the ability to walk there. And I know, Bill, you talked about this before. It's a great little trick of using the census tracker to look at migration patterns. So sometimes thinking beyond your borders, thinking of flexible timelines, that's something we've started doing, looking at where are the main migration patterns into our area, and we're marketing to those areas right now. And it's done a couple of things. We're getting referrals because we're picking listings up in those areas because people are wanting to move, and then they're buyers for us when they come down here. So it's actually been a two-play for us on that side of things. So we've just been targeting that. So I think where are people moving right now, knowing your trends for your market's pretty smart. There's inbound migration patterns, especially if you're in an area where people are moving in. Keep an eye on that. And I think that's the big thing in terms of messaging, is make sure, and then also demographically, who are you talking to, right? One of the classes I took recently for my lovely continuing education was on trends in real estate, and the whole class basically talked about the millennial buyer segment and how they're moving right now, and they're one of the bigger buying powers in the real estate market. And one of the things that they noted in there, and I thought it was interesting, and I went back and read the studies on it, they're very much more likely to respond to your marketing when it talks about amenities and lifestyle. Whereas the boomer generation, the silent generation, they're more inclined to look at the utilitarian pieces of marketing that you put out there: 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, this many square feet, this price per square foot. Each demographic actually is different in that regard. So if you're looking at the millennial buyer segment right now, and a lot of them are first-time home buyers, and now they're becoming first-time home sellers, if you talk to them, you need to talk to them about lifestyle and amenities and things that they can go do, the experience of it all. That type of marketing is now taking the forefront over that utilitarian, data-driven marketing. So just making sure your message fits whoever you're trying to market or appeal to is important.
Yeah. You bring up a good point. I want to kind of rabbit trail on for just a second. And so let's go back to geographical targeting of out-of-area people for a second. And we can spend as much or as little time as you want to on this. So you're talking about looking at inbound migration. We put out some resources you guys could look at. And many of you know intuitively where people move to your area from, either because you work with past clients or you moved from that area yourself. So let's say that I'm sitting, I'll just use myself as an example. Let's say I'm sitting in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and I know that people from Ohio love to move to Hilton Head. What's my next step in targeting to Ohio because I know I can't afford to, nor do I want to, just target the entire state. Just maybe rapid fire a few quick ideas for the folks at home that they could dial in that geo targeting.
Yeah, so two ways I would go about it right off the bat. If I'm spending money on this, I'm going ads is what I'm guessing here. So the way I would go attack this, well, there's actually three ways I would go attack this. The first way I would go attack it, if I had no money and I had no money to spend on it, I was like, this is a great idea. What do I go do? I would go research the areas that they're migrating from. So you can get down to county level pretty much and figure out what counties move to your area predominantly. There's ways to do that, ways to see those traffic patterns. Then I would go in that county and I would type on Google, top real estate agents in this area. And I would say, hey, I'm in this area. I noticed that a lot of your people are moving my way. I'd love to set up a referral partnership with you. And I would do that with 10 to 20 of those agents in that area and kind of lock down that market, that if they thought of anybody moving to my city, they're going to call me on that end of things. Set that up right away. So that's a free way. I mean, that doesn't cost you anything other than time and some phone calls for you to go do that. And that's pretty simple to set up. Advertising wise, if I'm doing social, I'm of course going to use Facebook on this because they have the best targeting tools out there. I'm going to find the community or county that I want to target. I'm going to look at people who are living in that location and that they're browsing Zillow, looking to move. And my messaging is going to be very focused on solving their problem of, are you looking to move? It's going to be a very blatant message. Are you looking to move to Raleigh, North Carolina? I'm your guy. I'm going to shoot a video on it because, of course, video performs the best for us right now. And offer my services, offer information, maybe put together some kind of relocation guide for them about our area, or even, get digital, build a website out that's specifically relocation geared towards that particular county coming into our area. And then the third level of it would be Google pay-per-click, because that's just, I would have it targeted to that area of people who are looking for homes for sale in Raleigh, North Carolina, some more deeper or long tail keywords. But those are the three plays I would make. And I mean, you could get away with doing the Facebook and the Google stuff for $500 to less than probably $1,000 a month, and you'd get some good results out of it.
Right. Good stuff. So let's, before we change gears and talk about the next segment, I want to come back and offer a couple of things to those of you who are with us, either live or watching the recording. If you want us to share with you the tools so you can track either inbound or outbound migration, where people are moving to your area from, or where people in your area are moving out to, just type the word migration in the comments, and then I'll follow up with you via a private message to send you a link on how you can find that info. And then the other thing, and this might tie more into the emerging trends piece in just a second, is you mentioned some stuff about millennials and their patterns and boomers and their patterns. So I guess I'll come to you first. What are some of the things that you're seeing or that you're capitalizing on in the emerging trends area?
That's a good question. Are we talking about things for Q4 and beyond, Bill, or are we talking just in general here?
Well, let's go ahead and kind of lead this into Q4, because I want to tie some Q4 action items to what you talked about at the top of the show today and bring all that together. So what are some things that they might need to keep their eye on Q4 and beyond?
Okay, yeah. So I got three big things that are just burning a hole in my craw right now. The first would be this thing we've never talked about before, Bill. So get ready. This is new. Video. Okay. Video. Yeah, let's just have that conversation, right? So some of the numbers on the trend side of things right now, some of the studies that NAR has been doing, 73% of homeowners have mentioned that they're more likely to work with a broker who utilizes videos for their listings in any capacity. They don't care if it's a Facebook Live video or an open house video or a listing video or a lifestyle video. They do not care. What they care about is that they hear the word video. They know that they need to be doing that in their marketing. They care about brokers that are doing it. Here's the crazy thing. Less than 4% of all brokers are doing it. So 73% of homeowners say they're more likely to use you, and only 4% of the brokers are doing it right now. It's a big miss. It's a big miss. So that for me, Q4 right now, if you're not doing video, you have got to go get into video and dig into that. I mean, if you look at inbound leads, real estate videos on average have a 403% higher lead rate than anything else out there right now. 403% higher based on NAR studies. Amazing. Go do video. Right. Go do video. That's one of the bigger ones right now. If I see an emerging trend, it's starting to become more normalized. within the real estate business right now, where people now are starting to expect it. It's no longer an add-on, it's an expectation. So the next level is, if you're not doing it, you need to start doing it so you can get comfortable with it so that you can go to the next level. Because right now what's about to happen is just going to go from that standardized expected level to what else are you doing to make it extra? How are you making it into a lifestyle video? How are you doing different things with your videos? It's going to move from the amateur to I call it the amateur professional level, or the pro-am. It's going to move there over the next year. And it's just one of the biggest moves. And all the platforms want you to use video. They have pretty much said, through the data we're seeing, they're saying use video, period. No question about it. We're going to give you more views. We're going to give you more leads. We're going to give you more of everything if you use video. So number one, Bill, use video. Like you said, I'm fired up today. So I'm just going to bang on video for a second.
Let's bring it. Let's bring it. Yeah. All right. So video is number one. What else?
Hyper local digital presence. If you have not Googled yourself, go Google yourself. Then here's the thing with the millennial group, one of the trends that's emerging from their group right now, 73% of them go and Google you and look at your reviews. So my first question is, if they Google you, can they find you? If they can't, that's a problem. My second question is, if they Google you, what do they find, right? So say they find you, do they find a 1970s website on there that, you have that really big poofy hair and stuff going on? I mean, they're going to Google you and then find these outdated tools. And remember, they value technology, right? They're more inclined, they with technology, whereas the boomer generations and up, they lead with relationships more often than not.
Sure.
The millennial group will go Google you, lead with technology, evaluate you before they move into a relationship with you to work with you. So if your technology is not up to par, if your digital presence is not up to par, you're in trouble on that front. And then the third thing I would say on that is, what does it say about you in terms of your reviews? So they're looking for testimonials. And I know we've talked about this before, and it's worth repeating. Just think about the last time you made an Amazon purchase. What's the first thing you do after you find whatever you're looking for? What do you do?
I'm looking at reviews. I'm looking at reviews. Yeah. I bought rat poison traps recently. So I had to, keep the kids and the neighborhood dogs and stuff out of it. So yeah, all about reviews.
And when you look at reviews, do you just look at the good reviews, or what do you specifically go look for?
Well, my pattern, I think, is probably like everybody else's, I guess, is I'm looking for a lot of reviews. I'm looking for 4.5 stars or better. I'm not looking for like the one review that the agent got from their mom that was 5 stars. I'd rather see 50 reviews and 4.5 stars than I would one review at 5 stars.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's the typical human behavior when they're looking at reviews. We're looking for quantity of reviews, and it almost outweighs quality. If we see a lot of bad reviews, of course, we're going to go, hold on, I don't know if I want to work with this person. But if you see a few in there, but you see mostly good reviews and people saying 4.5 stars or better, you're more likely to purchase that product or work with that person because it seems more authentic. If we just see all 5-star reviews, the first thing I think, given my suspicious nature, I'm like, this sounds like they paid somebody to go in there and just read all these good reviews.
Right.
So I'm actually on our profiles, on our Yelp, on our Facebook, on any of our other profiles that people can review us on. I'm actually okay with us not getting great reviews all the time. If someone gives us a 4-star instead of a 5-star, that's okay, because that's authentic. And the next group of people that's coming up to buy houses, they're going to look for that kind of stuff. On that end of things too, the hyperlocal digital presence, I think right now is the time, from now to the end of this year, going into 2021, your ability to compete with the big boys in the market is dwindling. So the way to do that is to go hyperlocal on them. They have still not figured out how to corner hyperlocal markets. You can dominate neighborhoods, you can dominate cities even if you put a lot of work into it. But really, if you pick out subsections of your areas, your farm areas, neighborhoods you want to dominate, you can dominate that digitally still. And it's hard for them to take that away from you after you go out and you take it on. And it's often cheaper to go and compete in those areas. You're not going to get the volume of traffic that you would, for example, for all of Raleigh. But if you target North Hills in Raleigh, you're going to get more volume just because not that many people are actively going out to compete for it. So hyperlocal digital presence, make sure your tech is up to snuff. So remember, most people browse on their phones. If your phone isn't at least mobile responsive or not even, adaptable to a phone screen, you're in trouble. That's just going to get worse as it goes on. People will get off your site quickly. You won't capture anybody on that end of things. So yeah, hyper-local digital presence, get on that for the rest of this year. And then my last piece, Bill, lead conversion. I think there's a big opportunity here. A lot of agents are so caught up in everybody right now. I say this all the time. It's not super difficult to produce a lead. It really is not super hard to do. At the end of the day, we wrote a whole course on it. We talk about it a lot. There's a multitude of different ways to produce leads. You can buy leads, you can create your own leads, you do your own marketing. Whatever you decide to do, producing is not the challenge, it's the conversion of it. And I think that going through the rest of this year, I would say as you're putting these other systems in place or tools in place, have your lead conversion in place, right? How are you converting these leads? So if you go out, like we were talking about at the top of the webinar today, you go out and market a listing and you put 25, 30, 40 new people in your database, how are you converting them into sales? How are you converting them into raving fans to come and use you when they decide to sell their home and purchase another one? What are you doing there to nurture and convert leads or prospects that are in your funnel? So I look at that as a big miss, but also a really big opportunity to close out 2020 to go back and say, how's my lead conversion? Because those are easy tweaks to the dial. So I know that's something we like to look at a lot, Bill, is, instead of ripping something apart and starting all over, can we tweak dials a little bit and just tune it up and get a lot more efficiency out of it? So those are my three big things: video, digital presence, and lead conversion.
Yeah. All of which are super important. And just to sort of drive the point home for a second, this has come up a lot recently in conversations where people, I have heard them say, I feel like I'm squeezing everything I can out of my current sources, and that's not enough. And you and I know that that's largely because of the dynamics of what's going on in the market. It's fascinating that we find ourselves in probably the hottest real estate market ever, historically ever, not just ever in like our careers, like ever. And that squeeze of really tight inventory. So people are saying, I feel like I'm doing everything I can with my database, and that's just not enough. Or I feel like I'm doing everything I can on lead generation through this source or that source, and that's just not enough. And if you're feeling that way, know that you're not alone, number one. And then number two, that is the sign to go dig another well. That is the sign to go do some of the things that Ben's talking about. So the reason we're so worked up about this right now is not because we don't think that you're working hard. We know you are. It is to say, no longer is that one well or those two wells that you drill going to be enough, because the dynamics of the market that we're in right now are not going away. There's nothing statistically that says spring is going to be better or summer is going to be better or next year is going to be better. And I don't mean worse either. I'm just saying it's not like it's going to get any easier. We're going to keep getting squeezed like this. So let's talk about fourth quarter. So you've already got homework from the first part of today's show. So now we're going to give you some homework for the back part of today's show. And Ben, as you know, you and I chatted on Friday morning along with Debbie as we were doing some fourth quarter planning. And then Debbie and I continued throughout Friday and Saturday on Q4 planning. And here's the question that we asked ourselves that I'd invite you guys to write down, and let's play on this a little bit together, is what do we need to do to flawlessly execute in the fourth quarter? What do we need to do to flawlessly execute in the fourth quarter? And that's not about what are all of the things that we need to do. Because we could come up with a list. You could all come up with a list. This is about what are the small handful of things that we need to do and do really, really well. So for those of you who are lead agents or you run teams or you're an individual agent, start with that question. September 30th right now live. So you've got Q4 right ahead of you. So Ben, if you were to say, and maybe this is something that you and your team are working on, or maybe this is something that you see as the biggest opportunity for the folks at home, what's something you'd like to see them flawlessly execute on in Q4?
My team or the lovely people on our webinar and the recording?
Either or. Dealer's choice.
I'm sticking with video, Bill. I'm sorry. I am on this drum today. It's one of the biggest. I mean, because it bleeds into everything else. If you do video, you're going to get exposure. So, like you said, dig another well right now. Video hits everything that you could possibly want to do. If you're a heavy prospector, right, and that's your whole business model, is you prospect for listings. Maybe you're expired in FSBOs. maybe you're a circle prospect or whatever it may be, then most likely your marketing isn't quite as good and there's opportunity there for you. And that's where video can help. Or maybe you're heavy in the marketing and you're starting to see that flatline a little bit. So then it's like, well, then lead conversion might be it if you're producing enough leads, video will help. And it will also lead over in the prospecting side of things. Use video to prospect. So for me, it kind of hits that whole triangle effect of what you're talking about here with adding another piece to your business. If you're right now seeing that you can't squeeze anything else out of it, I think it's really smart to say, what's my main lead gen pillars right now? Maybe you have one lead gen pillar and you had, like Bill said, you squeezed all the water out of that sponge. There's nothing more coming. Then we have to figure out another way to either increase that size of that sponge, or we have to go find another way to produce business. And for me, video hits on all of those pieces for you. And I know for us, one reason we're big on video right now is it's helping with the lead conversion process tremendously on the back end. We're seeing people step in and respond to things they never responded to before. And then in terms of the prospecting piece, this is how we actually booked 2 appointments with FSBOs, was by sending them videos of us instead of just calling or texting or emailing them or mailing them a packet. They actually invited us over to have a conversation and talk about what listing would look like. Now, will we nail them down? We'll see how that turns out. But the video got us in the door where they're not even having that conversation with other brokers right now. So I look at video for us. I say there's one big piece that you can execute on, and you don't need anything other than a cell phone to do it. Everybody has one. You don't need anything more than that to go do this one thing, and it can increase your business across a lot of different levels.
Great job. Would totally agree with all of that. So 2 things I want to share with you guys at home before we wrap up here, Ben. One, I'll post in the comments a link to the List to Last listing skills course that Debbie and I just released a couple of weeks ago. It's a 5-part series, 6.5 hours worth of content, and we spend an entire session of that course devoted to what Ben and I got into today, including how to turn one listing into multiple listings. So the roadmap is there for you. And a lot of what Ben shared today is in there for you as well. Second thing, mark your calendars if you haven't already. October 27th, which is a Tuesday, about a month from now, we're doing a live virtual business planning workshop. You all are invited. Clients get in for free. Their team members get in for free. And those of you who are non-client friends of ours can get in for a very nominal fee as well. So I'll drop the registration link in the comments as well. Ben, anything else that you'd like to cover today, or any parting words for the folks at home?
Go get that 1-to-1 listing to listing ratio at the least. Go out and say, it's no longer, it's the baseline now to sell a listing. You don't really have to do much to sell a listing if we're being transparent. So now go out and say, I'm going to go improve on that and say, I'm taking a listing for every listing that I put on the market. That's the new metric you need to stare at. And if you get there, go, I'm going to take 2 listings for every listing I put on the market. That's the metric, and that's how you can win. So go execute on that.
Nice work. Nice work as always, Ben. Thanks, buddy. And thanks to Debbie for co-hosting the past 2 shows for me. And we'll catch you guys here in a couple of weeks. Take care.
Bye, guys.